Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of PMP's Den of Antiquities. And today we have another awesome chapter in the Star Wars Perspective podcast. If you're new here, basically what that is I find people all across the Star Wars galaxy and bring them on to tell that Star Wars story. But before we get into that, I'm going to need you guys to do one thing for me. I'm going to need you to force choke that like button and Jedi mind trick the subscribe button. I know those are tricky, but I have faith in you guys that you can do it. But more importantly, let's get into today's guest. We have Golden Guy Pictures here to tell us about his Star Wars story. How's it going, man?
It's going well, buddy. How you doing?
Oh, any day I get to talk to another Star Wars fan or even another creator on top of that. It's so much fun. I like, we were talking a little bit beforehand before we started, and I like hearing those stories about how you create, how your mindset is and stuff like that when you go into filming things or just creating in general. So it's cool. It's cool to hear that stuff,
Heck yeah, man. And anytime we get to nerd out is a good time.
Heck yeah. So the first question I usually ask everybody that comes on the podcast is, what got you into Star Wars?
So I was very, very young. Although I do have a vivid memory of watching A New Hope for the first time. A New Hope is number one on the Star Wars list for me.
Oh, nice.
Actually, the order of the Star Wars movies that I watched them are very sporadic. They're not in any kind of order. As far as my first time goes. So I watched A New Hope, and they started. I remember being in a living room, and Kenobi talking about how he was once a Jedi Knight, and Luke was like, you fought in the Clone Wars, and they're kind of reminiscing. And I remember being a kid and just being like, what in the world are they talking about? Clone Wars, like copies of people fighting each other. What in the world does that mean? And so after A New Hope, the second Star Wars movie I watched after that was The Phantom Menace.
Oh,
I didn't watch 5, I didn't watch 6. I just went straight to episode 1, and after episode 1, I think my mom was getting really tired of this because I would watch nothing but The Phantom Menace at least once or twice every day for months. That's all I watched was episode 1. And after episode 1, I watched the Clone Wars movie, and then I watched 5 and 6. And then Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, you're not kidding. You did go all over the place. That's crazy.
And then I watched the Clone Wars show, and I grew up in I wouldn't say it was a strict household, but we definitely had boundaries. And I wasn't able to watch Revenge of the Sith until I was about 13. And that became my favorite movie for a long time. It's a close second for me. But yeah, my experience with Star Wars was very sporadic, and it took me a while to see the whole picture. 1 through 6, Clone Wars, all that stuff. But it's always been an important part of my life and an important part of my development. Obi-Wan has always been number one for me, my favorite character. But Luke has always kind of rivaled in the sense that I always looked to Obi-Wan and Luke as role models of how a person should be. And so, especially when I was in high school, if I was ever in a predicament of some sort, I would always think okay, what would Luke do in this situation? Or what would Obi-Wan do in this situation? And that always kind of helped me get through scenarios. And I think it really grew me as not just a person but as a leader as well. So I credit a lot to George Lucas and that world that he created, or galaxy, I should say. But yeah, it's got very deep roots in my heart.
I feel that. Yeah, when you were talking about, who you kind of look towards, it's funny because I also Luke's my favorite character. So I would always kind of do the same thing. Like when you're in high school, you kind of be like what would Luke do in this situation? And also for me, it was Luke and then Qui-Gon, because Qui-Gon, I always felt like a little bit of an outsider, especially like in high school and stuff like that. And Qui-Gon was always kind of like that. He wasn't on the council. He kind of did things his own way and things like that. So I can.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because now that I'm older, I actually relate with Qui-Gon and Anakin more now. And so, if anything, when I'm in those situations, I kind of still think about Kenobi, and I still kind of think about Luke, but my mindset has definitely shifted more towards that. I serve the light because it is the light kind of perspectives.
Definitely.
Qui-Gon.
Right on. Heck yeah. So if you had to, this is a hard question, I know. So if it takes a second, no worries at all. But if you had to pick one thing about Star Wars, what would be your favorite thing about Star Wars? It could be literally anything.
Oh, the Jedi.
Yeah.
The Jedi are awesome, dude. I mean, come on. They're so you break them down and you think of who they are, what they do. How does a writer or a world builder even begin to comprehend such a concept? Like, on one hand, you have a sort of wandering warrior who's dedicated to a certain affiliation that's both religious but also magical, and at the same time uses a sword that has a glowing blade that sprouts out of the handle, and then on top of that they can make stuff float, and they can mess with your mind, and then they wear bathrobes. It's just such a wild idea. It's like, how do you even begin to come up with something like that? And I've always wanted to be a Jedi ever since I was little, and I'm crazy about the Jedis. I can't imagine any kind of Star Wars that doesn't have like that Jedi feeling attached to it.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more. I was watching some of the celebration videos and stuff like that, and it brought me so much joy that Ewan's he's like, I can't kind of help but act like I'm a Jedi out in public when he's like, when I come to a revolving door, a slide door, he's like, I'm always you
have to the Force to open. That's the only way they work. I mean, that's all I've known. It's that's how they open. I have to use the Force.
Yeah, he's like, I mostly do it for myself, but he's like, I kind of hope somebody sees me. And I was like, dude, I would flip out if I was walking into a grocery store and just saw him kind of doing that, at the grocery store. I'd be like, yo, it's Obi-Wan, let's go.
Yeah. That would be amazing.
But let's talk a little bit about you being a filmmaker, and what kind of got you in. I mean, obviously, I'm sure Star Wars had a big role in getting you into doing film, but what kind of pushed you down that kind of avenue?
Well, it's funny, we already kind of touched up on this before we jumped into the stream. I wish I had known that we weren't rolling while we were going, because I would have saved some of that for this. But
right,
I can touch up on it real quickly again. But I really started when I was 7, and I was obsessed with Legos, and my mom had given me this little digital camera, and so I would make stop motion videos with the Legos, and that's kind of how it started. And I was obsessed with movies and television when I was young. I mean, most kids are, watching lots of TV, but for me, it was, I was consuming a lot of it. But it wasn't just that. I would watch the behind the scenes content on all the DVDs that we had, and I think that was when my parents kind of realized, like, oh, he's not just, being lazy watching TV for, 5 hours. He's actually taking stuff in, like he's actually learning things. And so I think they kind of cut me some slack with that. But really, it was around 10, 11, I was probably 13. I was probably 13 years old when I really started to use video and friends and siblings to capture a story with the camera. And in high school was where I really started to dive deep into learning the craft. And I don't know, I've always been a visual person. I don't read a whole lot. I read important things, really, I would say.
I
don't really spend a whole lot of time just reading. I don't want to say non-important things, but things that if it won't teach me specific things, I usually won't read it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm the exact same way.
I've read maybe 5 Star Wars books my whole life. I have favorite Star Wars books. Dark Lord of the Sith.
I haven't read that one yet. I have it on my Audible, but I haven't dived in.
That one's insane.
Oh yeah.
I love the Jedi Purge stuff that happens in there.
That's the one with it's the one with Palpatine and Vader, right? Or am I thinking of a different? Maybe that's Lords of the Sith.
It's Dark Lord: The Rise of Darth Vader.
Oh, okay.
But I really enjoy that one. And then I loved the first Game of Thrones book. That one was really good. But I mostly read like how-to books.
Yeah,
I've read a lot of Stephen King's memoirs on writing, or I forget the title. It's a big title. And then I read film books like different memoirs from directors and things like that. I also read the Bible because it's so rich with classical narrative, and I also really enjoy history, and there's a lot of great history and poetry in there. But really, I'm mostly a visual person, and I've always enjoyed the things that you can do with a camera, and just everything from what you can do with the actors to what you can do with the background. It's almost limitless, and I've always liked the idea of it. I was like, what can you push? What boundaries can you push to make that perfect shot? And at the same time, you're not just creating art; you're telling a story. And I think that's always been fundamental for me. Is like, what message do I want to tell the world with this image? And it's I don't know, it's always fascinated me.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of on the, like we talked about, I'm on the flip side of that, which is game design, but it's still like the same principles, a lot of the same stuff that you said about like story and what messages you want to send. It's just doing it in a different medium, So I really recognize a lot of that stuff, and I agree with a lot of what you were saying, because it's just it's crazy that I'm also a very visual learner, I've always grew up either watching movies or doing playing a lot of video games. I was kind of like the same thing as you. Is like I was, instead of watching movies, I was playing games all day long, and my parents were like, are you like just being a lazy butt, or are you actually and then I kind of talked to them about like how I felt about it, and it's like, hey, well, these are like basically like books, but like in visual form, like it's telling a story, and I'm going from here, but I'm actually doing the story. I'm not just like reading the pages on the, in the book. I'm actually like doing it myself. And It's always cool when parents kind of support, those type of goals and stuff like that, and they can kind of recognize that sort of stuff. It's really cool. But what got you into making a Star Wars short film? Like, what made you be like, you know what, I want to take what we got from the video game Jedi Fallen Order and kind of make a short. Like, what made you decipher and pick? Because we have so much Star Wars, like Jedi Fallen Order.
So it's funny that we, of all people, are having this conversation, because I make a film based off of a video game, and you over here are the video game programming awesome dude. I don't even know what to call you. What would you describe yourself as?
Really just game designer, but if we had to put like a strict label on it, I would say I'm an environment artist or a 3D artist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're obsessed with film and you're almost more obsessed with Star Wars, it's almost impossible to desire to make a Star Wars film. And so that was always on the bucket list. And when I was younger, I made a Star Wars film with some friends of ours. That will never be on YouTube. I can promise you that. But it was the first film I ever made, and it was terrible, but it was my first step into a larger world. And through the years, I had played with different concepts of making another Star Wars film, but I kept putting it aside because I knew I wasn't ready for that. I didn't want to tell another Star Wars story until I could do it and do it right. Because I care too much about Star Wars, and I'll tell any other kind of story and use what I've got there, but I wanted to do something that would honor George, and honor the IP, I guess. And so I really wanted to put my all into it. And so I spent a long time. I was probably about 18, 19 when I started playing with different concepts. Because about that time, I felt like I could put something pretty decent together. And I had a good number of ideas that I thought would work really well. The story that almost became the foretelling was a former Jedi youngling who escaped the Jedi Temple, and by the time we see him, he's an adult, and he's, I guess, in the era of the original trilogy, and he's looking for someone because he has Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber, and he's searching for someone because the Kyber crystal is acting like a compass, and
okay.
When he finds the person, it's Luke, and he gives Qui-Gon's lightsaber to Luke, who then makes his green lightsaber that we see in Return of the Jedi.
Oh, that's sick.
And that was the original concept that almost became the project. But then my good friend Wesley Hamilton, he's you'll find him on YouTube, Walmart Cal Kestis, that guy who played Cal Kestis. That's the name of his channel. We became good friends, and we started talking about the idea, and he was excited. He really wanted to work on the project. And while we were in conversation, we got the note. I mean, we saw the Jedi Fallen Order trailer. And when you have a guy that literally looks just like Cameron Monaghan, you don't neglect that. You have to make a Jedi Fallen Order film.
Right,
so,
right.
we're like, okay, all right, this was a cool idea, but now we need to utilize this opportunity that we have here. And I am not a gamer. I don't play video games. I mean, I'll play them every once in a while when I'm at friends' houses I've never been good at video games. They all say, "Oh, if you work on it, you'll get better." I've been working on it, off and on for a good 22 years, and I'm still terrible. Although I'm pretty great at Lego Star Wars. Although it's pretty good at that. But I mean, come on, it's a fun game. Come on.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
But I watch if it's a game that looks compelling to me, I'll watch the gameplay and the cutscenes like it's a movie, and I'll just watch that. And if Jedi Fallen Order was a movie, it would be my favorite property. I mean, it would be my favorite property that Disney has released, hands down. Rogue One right now is my favorite Disney Star Wars movie.
Oh, it's great.
But a close second is Jedi Fallen Order. The story, and it's only because it's a video game. Like, it's not, it's not like a movie that I saw in theaters. But Jedi Fallen Order was just such a rich and beautiful story. And you could feel the reverence that the creators had for George's universe.
Oh yeah.
Like they understood the assignment. Like, they knew what they were working with. And not only did they uphold the values that Star Wars and the idea of Jedi represent as a whole, but they were also very bold with new and fresh ideas. And just it's flawless to me. I can't think of anything that's wrong with it. And so for me, it was a great story that I wanted to kind of add to in a way. But that was going to be the difficulty, was what kind of story could we tell that didn't conflict too much with the current canon? Because we could have easily just shot some kind of Star Wars story in the woods, just whatever the heck we wanted, and have Cal Kestis do cool stuff and call it a day. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted our film to stand out, and not just in the way that it looks, but in the locations that we shoot at. But I also wanted to make it feel cohesive to canon. I wanted it to feel like something that could have actually happened to Cal Kestis after the events of the game. And so we had to be very careful when we were writing that Cal Kestis experienced things, but he doesn't develop per se as a character. Like, he can't go through a significant change in our film, and then when the second game comes out, it contradicts his character.
Right, right.
There has to be a sense of stability, and there has to be we have to maintain the status quo that the first game ended on. Yeah,
you would like a slice of life essentially, but doesn't change really.
Right.
It tells like a moment in his whole life, but doesn't change the canon that is laid out for us.
Right. It had to almost be anthologic in nature, which was a challenge, but it was also quite enjoyable. And the Galactic Civil War era is my absolute favorite era of Star Wars. I love any story where survival is one of the biggest themes. Is always, I love apocalypse films.
Oh yeah.
I love my zombies. But I love the characters and how they survive and how they handle the situations that they're in. And I'm also very poetically ironic in the way that I write. And so I love morally ambiguous characters like Thanos or Joker, where it's like they are bad for the right reasons.
From a certain point of view.
certain point of view. And so we put a lot of work into the character of Zen and making him when we first started thinking of, okay, what kind of Jedi Fallen Order story do we want to tell? I was like, what if you had a good guy who killed good guys, but was still a good guy through and through? It's like, is that even possible? It's like, well, I'm sure it is possible, but how? And so that's how we mapped out. I was like, okay, well, what if we had a Jedi who saw a vision of Luke Skywalker being the only Jedi available during the original trilogy, and in order to preserve those events, he had to make sure every other surviving Jedi is dead. And so after that, the story kind of fleshed itself out, and it was easily one of, I would say it's the most fun project I've done so far. I really felt at home, and it was very fulfilling to put this thing together. And every once in a while, I'll watch it and just kind of reminisce.
Definitely,
and, I'm quite proud of it. I mean, going back, there's certainly things that I would change here and there. There's lessons that I've learned along the way, but
I think just as a creator, that just happens. Like anything that you create, you're always going to be like, man, if I had to go back, I'd probably do that differently, or probably do that. It's that creative mindset. You always think about something else or a different, you're coming at it from a different angle, because you shot it probably years ago, and then going from that. So I can totally see that.
Yeah, for sure. But it was a blast. Who knows? Maybe one day we'll get back to it.
Heck yeah. I really like the character is in, because it seemed like to me it was almost like his character was almost like a what if, because Yoda or Obi-Wan could have easily done that. They could have like he seemed like he was almost like a twisted version of like Yoda or Obi-Wan. They could have like taken out any Jedi that they wanted to preserve the future of Luke being not the chosen one, but I guess the catalyst for bringing back the chosen one, So I really liked that kind of aspect of that character. I thought that was really cool that you guys did that, because it really showed just like the flip side of a coin. He thought he was doing what was right, by just eliminating, he hears all those when they're in, they're locked in battle, and he's hearing all the voices of what I was assuming is the people who came before, kind of like Cal, and the people he's kind of knocked out and taken out, and he's, seeing those kind of demons that like lie within him. So I thought that was kind of a very cool, almost like a what if aspect of like, it could have easily been, it's crazy how like the way you perceive things, which is a big thing about Star Wars. It's like perspective, right? Like there's necessarily no right or wrong. It's just like how you perceive that determines like your actions, and I thought that it played on that very well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the goal, was we wanted Zen to be the epitome of prequel era Jedi. He had to be the most arrogant, prideful, and talented Jedi that you ever met, who was so wise and powerful in the Force, yet absolutely weak in the grand scheme. I mean, he is Mace Windu. He is Luminar Unduli. Jedi who thought they had it all figured out, but in reality, they were blind the entire time.
Right.
And that was certainly the goal, and it was a challenge too, because we had to map out, especially in the lightsaber duel, we had to map out how does Cal Kestis beat a full-fledged prequel era Jedi, because his training wasn't fully fleshed out, but Zen was a Jedi Knight for quite some time by then. And so we spent about 6 to 8 months choreographing the duel. And every parry, every lightsaber block, every jab was something that we had to think about. Was, okay, what if this character jabs like this? What does that represent? What does that mean for this character? Why would he do it like this instead of this? And one of the biggest things was every move that Zen does was pulled from a move that a prequel era Jedi does at some point in episodes 1, 2, and 3, where all of Cal's moves are all in defense. He doesn't attack once except at the very end, and that was very important for us. Was Cal is like the perfect Jedi, I would say. He's Qui-Gon Jinn. He's Ahsoka Tano. He's Luke Skywalker. So it's almost like you have a false Jedi going up against the ideal Jedi, and that was a lot of fun to figure out and coordinate and just kind of map out how these characters play together.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool. I was telling you before, like, I've always wanted to kind of do like a short film of, something Star Wars related. So that's really cool that you were able to conceptualize something and then not only conceptualize it, because like that's where a lot of people get stuck, right? Is like they'll be stuck in the ideal phase, but you actually brought it to life and brought it to like, YouTube and all that stuff. So that's so cool. Did you
say, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. It's all you. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, it's like, because I've had that conversation before. It's like, well, I have this desire to make film, but I don't know what to do with it. It's like, well, my encouragement has always been Quentin Tarantino's encouragement to aspiring filmmakers like myself, and it's not your job to create a vision. It's your job to have a vision and then put in the work and work with producers who will hire people to make your vision a reality.
Right.
So for me, it was always like, okay, I have a story. What do I want it to look like? It's like, okay, well, I have this visual idea of greens and blues. It's like, okay, so what if we're on Gleeon's Elm? You've got the blue sky and the open green fields, and you have Cal Kestis, who's got, what if he had a khaki poncho with blue sleeves like in the video game? It's like, okay, well, what if Zen had khaki tan Jedi robes, but he had a green sleeve underneath? What if Zen had a green lightsaber in contrast with Cal's blue lightsaber? So it's the juxtaposition. It's determining what your story is, what your message is, and then getting a visual idea of everything, and then just doing it. Like, use what you've got and go for it. Don't let what you don't have be the obstacle.
I think that's definitely where a lot of people get caught up, is like, I mean, even I've done it before where I'm like, oh man, I don't have this or I don't have that, and sometimes you just gotta, it might not be the exact image that you're thinking about, but you just gotta go in and do it. You just like find the tools that you have and work. And it's almost kind of cool too, because it activates that, that part of your brain that, you're like, okay, well, I can't do it this way, but I have this. How do I get it done with what I have? What you're saying. So,
and that's where the George Lucas has come from, is innovating.
Oh yeah.
Every film that George has ever done, there hasn't been something that he has innovated to accomplish his goal. And I think that needs to be the case every time we make film. And unfortunately, that's not the case for the most part.
Yeah.
We're in an age where we're just spitting movies out, and most of them are crap.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's true. I think we need to be telling great stories, and we need to be changing the way films are made all the time. We need to constantly be being in a state of innovation. I think that's really important.
Well, I think the good thing about that, I guess the upside to like movies, just because I feel like games are kind of in the same spectrum of that, is like they're just being like, especially like when you get higher up, they're just being pumped out and pumped out and pumped out, I think it does lend to a lot of people like you and I who are more, on the indie side of things, and like it'll really highlight a lot of those people who, not saying that the people in Hollywood or the people in like AAA games don't care about the stuff that they're making. I'm sure they're super passionate about it, but it really highlights those people who were just, working with what they have. And like you were saying, kind of creating those kind of George Lucases of the, entertainment fields, which I think is really awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you happen to see the new trailer for the video game, Fallen Order?
I did.
What'd you think?
Yeah, it was awesome and weird and mysterious, and I don't know what I was watching, but it looks awesome.
Right. I'm like, who is that guy in that tank? I was like, I don't know who that is. I'm reading.
I have a couple of them, but yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm reading Heir to the Empire right now. That's the Audible books that I'm reading.
That's one of my theories.
Yeah, I was like, maybe it's like Sabayoth. I was like, it could be like a Jorah, because like he's obviously like, he's not like a super old guy, but he does have white hair. So it was like, maybe he's like a, which I think.
And you have to think, by the time, let's just say it is, by the time we could see him in Ahsoka with Thrawn, by then he'd probably be pretty old. Yeah, because
the video game takes place 5 years after the first video game. Is that, I think?
Yeah, so that would be 10 years, which would, so he'd probably be like 15, maybe 20 years older. By the time, if he were to appear in Ahsoka, he'd probably be like 15 years.
Well, especially too, if he had like acceleration like the clones had, like they had like faster acceleration of like their age and stuff, like he could definitely be.
Yeah, and one thing that I noticed was in the tank, he only has his left arm. He doesn't have a right arm.
Really? I didn't catch that.
And then in the shot where Cal is fighting that mysterious dude, he's only using his left arm. The Darksider guy, he's wielding the red lightsaber, but he never uses his right arm. It's just his left the whole time. Like you never even see it. So I guarantee whoever is in that tank ends up being the dude with the red saber.
For sure, yeah, that's sick. I'm excited for it. I played through the first game and I really enjoyed it. So I'm excited to see the story continue. And I like how they're making like. Because at first I was a little skeptical because like at the time when George Lucas created the original trilogy, like it was only supposed to be Luke and Leia. Like those were the only two, So I was like bringing in a lot of these other, like Jedi and Force wielders. I was like, I don't know. But I like the way that they're doing this. It's like Ahsoka, she's around, but she's no longer a Jedi and she's kind of doing her own thing. Cal is a Jedi, but he's also kind of just doing his own thing. So they're playing it.
What he'll be doing by the time Return of the Jedi happens,
Yeah,
all we know, he could die.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I like about it is like they're all kind of just doing like their own thing. So like from a certain point of view, Luke and Leia are the only two hopes. Because they're kind of off doing their own things. Like their destiny isn't to save the galaxy. They're just living their life and trying to do what they're destined to do within their kind of little like scape of the Star Wars universe. Because Star Wars universe is so massive, like there's so much that you can be doing. It's not just like a one track mind. It's not just like. So I thought that was kind of cool that they're. They're branching out. Like I said, at first I was a little skeptical, but I'm really liking the way that they're bringing more world building and more storytelling to the universe. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So I asked this question for everybody, and this will probably be the hardest question I ask you. Going from Phantom Menace to Rise of Skywalker, can you list one thing that sticks out to you about each movie? Or it can be a couple things if you have more than one, but usually I just do one. But
I'll try to stick with the one thing. Episode 1, it's a lot.
Yeah, right. I know it's hard to pick just like one. That's why I said it's hard to pick one thing. But
I would say episode 1, the Duel of the Fates.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot to go there. I think a close second would be the pod race.
Oh yeah, another great one for sure.
Episode 2, the Petronaki Arena battle. See, I told you I'm a big Jedi nut. Okay, like this is all going to be Jedi related stuff.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Episode 3, the Counselors versus Sidious is up there because I'm a huge. One thing you need to know about me is I am a absolute simp for Kit Fisto.
Oh, he's great, dude. He's great.
So anytime Kit Fisto shows up, it'll just automatically be one of my favorite moments.
Seeing him in the animated like Clone Wars where he's underneath the water with like the Jedi, I thought that was the coolest thing as a kid. I was like, yo, he's using force powers underwater and he's slicing stuff and he's going like he's like Aquaman but for Star Wars, you know. I was like, it's cool.
Yeah, he's definitely one of my favorites. And then, man, I might have to use 3 points for Revenge of the Sith, but the Council versus Sidious is a big one. Anakin versus Obi-Wan, classic, and then the Purge, all that stuff. I love all that stuff.
So I have a question for you. Usually, anytime the Jedi fighting with Sidious comes up, I always have to ask this question. Do you think Mace Windu survived?
Oh, yeah.
You think he did?
Oh, he did.
I always like to see who answers the question. Like some people are like, nah, he's dead. Some people are like, oh no, he could definitely survive the fall. So I had to ask.
Dude, no. I mean, come on. The dude is still alive. But seriously, like, I mean, especially if you have any sort of respect for Legends material, you watched the 2D animated Clone Wars cartoon. There's a whole scene where Mace Windu is thrown out of his exploding Delta 7 and he's free falling, over Coruscant, and he lands on a vulture droid and
just like steers it,
like commandeers. Yeah. Like, if he can do that, then I'm quite confident that Mace Windu, in his electrified, disarmed state, could stumble onto some kind of speeder. I mean, I guarantee he broke a few ribs and got really hurt, maybe got a heavy concussion, maybe even fell into a coma or something like that. The dude is still alive. I mean, especially when you've got Sam Jackson knocking on the Disney door saying, hey, I want to come back.
Right, like, right.
That's money right there that Disney can make. Why they wouldn't do that is it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, that was one thing. I believe Star Wars Theory is the one who's doing the Vader versus Mace Windu, and I was just like, dude, that's like, I was like, I can't believe like Disney hasn't thought of that like before even him, because I was like, that's money right there. Just having him come back, and because he's going to be coming back with the vengeance. He'd be using, I guess, more of Vapod, where he channels more of his dark side. And like, who would want to see Samuel L. Jackson fight Darth Vader? Like Hayden and Samuel L. Jackson. Like, if they brought those two characters back, like on the live screen, that would be sick. Like, that'd be the coolest thing. I
completely agree. I'm really excited for Theory's work. I loved his prelude that he released in that animated short that he made was fantastic as well.
Oh, where he's like looking up at Vader and they're like on Naboo. Yeah, that was sick. That was pretty cool, for sure. But yeah, sorry, I kind of took us off on a little bit of a tangent.
Yeah, we're still on the. Okay, so A New Hope. Can I just say the whole movie?
You can 100% say that for sure. It's just a classic, man. Like I've never really understood. I mean, I guess you can like whatever you want to in Star Wars, and everybody's opinion is valid. But a lot of people say that it's like boring, and I was like, how can you say it's boring, dude? I was like, it is Star Wars. Like, you want to know what Star Wars is? Like, watch that. It's just classic. Like, everything you need to know. And everything you can like feel, like you feel like even if you don't know what the Force is, like you feel the Force when you're watching that movie. You feel like you have a concept and an understanding of it,
It's the classic knight rescues the princess with the wizard. Like it's a classic story that is thrown into a universe full of aliens and Nazis. Like who doesn't want that kind of story? And so yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'd be able to come up with one thing from A New Hope. I think I do think my favorite scene might be the one in Kenobi's hut. And that might be my favorite moment there.
Where he's talking to Luke about like the Jedi and Anakin and
His
all that
father,
stuff. Yeah.
like that is beautiful exposition. If you ever, I think if that scene tells you anything, is that exposition works when it's done right. And I think that was the point for people when Star Wars became more than just a low budget sci-fi flick.
Oh yeah,
like so much more after that scene.
Definitely.
Okay, so then Empire, I would have to say, I don't know, the Hoth battle is fantastic.
Oh yeah, it's epic.
But the duel on Bespin is also just absolutely incredible.
Not to mention the views, like when they're like coming into Bespin and the clouds and it's at sunset, and I was like, beautiful.
Okay, and then Return of the Jedi. I love the opening sequence on Tatooine. And then I think my favorite moment, not just in Return of the Jedi, but I think debatably, it's definitely up there, maybe top 3, but I think my favorite moment in Star Wars history, period, is Luke looking over at the Force ghosts.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
A few seconds of the film where they're celebrating. Force Awakens, what's not to love about that movie? Let me think. I really enjoy anytime they're on the Falcon.
Oh yeah.
And I love Kylo Ren. I actually love Kylo Ren. So I think anytime he's on screen is always a good time. His first appearance in the movie is great. I think that might be my favorite moment from that movie is him stopping the laser, because I remember seeing that in theaters and just being like, what?
Yeah, right.
Like,
we never seen anything like that before, no. Also too, I think I don't hear a lot of people talking about this, but they gave him the coolest ships. Like the one that comes down, and then the one in The Last Jedi when he's like destroying like the frigate and stuff like that. His ships, like the red and black, I don't know, man. I'm a little biased because red and black are my favorite colors. But like, man, I think he has the coolest like fighters. And like, I guess, I don't know if his first ship is a fighter, but like the deployment, I guess, is like, I thought it was so cool.
Yeah. Last Jedi. My favorite,
or something that just stuck out to you if you don't have like a favorite thing from it.
Oh well, I think the most important moment of all of Star Wars was when Luke threw his father's lightsaber over his shoulder.
Oh.
Anyway,
yeah, we're gonna skip that part.
Well, I think here's what I will say: The Last Jedi is the most visually compelling Star Wars movie, and again, Kylo Ren is absolutely fantastic in that film. I think my favorite moment from that movie is the crate battle.
Oh yeah, that was cool scene. Absolutely
Brilliant, very well made. And then Rise of Skywalker. I think I would have to say that the scene that stands with me the most is, even though I wished it kind of played out differently, I love the scene where all of the Jedi speak to Rey.
Yeah.
Especially when you see in the credits like which Jedi were speaking to her. And I thought that was awesome because it's at least the audio debut of a lot of characters that we've known for a while.
Right.
Like Ava Sakura,
Kanan is in it.
Kanan's in
Mace
there.
Windu. I think Qui-Gon. Trying to think. Anakin, Obi-Wan. Yeah.
I mean, it was really, really cool. I just wish we actually saw them.
Yeah, have you seen that edit where they edited all? Like I still get. I got chills right now from it. It was so cool.
That was what we got. It would. I mean, the movie would definitely move up a lot higher on the list for me.
Same.
But I thought that scene was still awesome.
For sure.
All the Jedi and
kind of going out into space and like you know.
I remember it giving me serious chills. So I thought that scene was cool.
Yeah, those were my two gripes. I was like, I wish we had. I mean, I had a lot of gripes with that one, but like my two main ones were I didn't like that she built her lightsaber at the end, like at the very end, because like I thought her lightsaber was super cool
from the get-go.
Right, I was just like. Also, I was really hoping she would get a double blade, but it's nitpicking. But I thought that it was cool that she got a yellow lightsaber. I was like, how cool would that have been if she would have used a yellow lightsaber throughout the whole movie? Like, I think that would have been sick.
And I always felt like her using the staff in Force Awakens foreshadowed her using a double blade. I really wanted to, and that's why I always liked Don Trevorrow's concepts.
With her with the blue. Like,
that
was sick.
The script was still a bit weak, borderline just fan fiction, but it was cool fan fiction. I mean,
it had cool elements for sure.
It's awesome. But yeah, the double blade thing would have been awesome. And I kind of wished that we had the yellow lightsaber the same way that Return of the Jedi opens up with the debut of the green blade.
Oh yeah. Well, I think it could have paid homage to it because there's a deleted scene where Luke is like building the lightsaber before he goes to Jabba. I was like, that would have been so cool if like maybe it would have like when she's kind of like she's doing her training in the forest or something like that. That would have been cool if she was floating and then the lightsaber was like floating in front of her, like twisting and being put together. And then she goes on her training montage. Like, I was like, that would have been the perfect freaking setup. It was cool because we actually finally got to see her train and like go through like the little circuit. And I was like, man, it's just missing because we never see, to my knowledge, do we see on screen like Jedi's putting their lightsabers together? I don't think we do. I think we do in the Clone Wars TV show because like they have a whole episode about it with the younglings, but and then in The Force Unleashed, Starkiller is doing it. But I don't think in live action we've ever seen. I was like, that would have been, man, that would have been awesome.
Yeah, I don't know why we haven't gotten anything like that in live action yet. It seems very, I don't know. It's funny to me how much there's still left to show audiences. Like things as simple as what if a blaster runs out of ammo? We've never seen that happen in live action. We've seen it like once or twice in the animated stuff, but we've never seen a stormtrooper reload or anything like that.
Right.
Simple stuff like that where it's like I would totally
like the little things
on a Star Wars feature. I would do so many of these little things
right.
that would blow my mind. Like the little tiny things would just blow me away if I saw it. I think those are all good points.
Right on. Well, we're gonna kind of this last little thing that I like to do is called Minoc Minutes, where I just kind of lob like, what's your favorite this? What's your favorite that? Who would you be in the universe? And I'm just gonna start throwing them out at you and see what you have to say. I think I know the answer to the first question given what you've given so far. But who would you be if you were in the Star Wars universe? Would you be a Jedi? Would you be a Sith? A bounty hunter?
Yeah. Oh, I would definitely be a Jedi.
Okay.
I'd probably get kicked out of the Jedi Order because I'd be too much like Qui-Gon. But oh yeah, definitely a Jedi.
Who would you want to train you if you were a Jedi?
Oh, Qui-Gon for sure.
Qui-Gon?
Or Qui-Gon or Ahsoka or Luke.
Yeah, I think those would all be really great masters to have for sure. So you're building your lightsaber as a Padawan. What style lightsaber do you have, and what colors, depending on what style you have, would you want?
So I actually got a Saber Forge lightsaber recently.
Ooh.
It's my newest one, and it's exactly how I would want my lightsaber to look. And it's kind of like a weathered silver finish with a brown leather wrap towards the bottom, the second half of the hilt. And it's a lime green blade.
Oh, nice. Kind of like is it like Ahsoka's like second one, or is it like a little bit greener than that?
It's a little bit greener than that.
Okay.
But not by much.
Nice.
Yeah, I love me some green, and I love the look of brown leather on a lightsaber. Ram Kota's lightsaber is one of my favorite.
Oh, it's sick. Yeah.
Because it looks like a katana. It looks so cool. And I also really like I don't know, the Force Unleashed lightsaber designs are fantastic to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was inspired a lot by that.
Nice. Yeah, I was believe it or not, even though Luke is my favorite character, I was never big on green lightsabers until I actually got it sitting back there. I got a lightsaber from Imperial Workshop, and I turned on the green. Like green was the first one that came on, and dude, I was like, all right, I'm on Team Green now. Yeah, I was like, I love green. Yeah. I mean, I definitely purple's my favorite for sure. I don't know. It's something about it. But green, like I have a new love for green now that I have like my own like light up lightsaber for sure.
Listen, all the cool Jedi have green lightsabers. Now there are other kinds of Jedi. Like you have bad donkey Jedi. Then you have cool Jedi. You have dope Jedi. Dope Jedi use purple lightsabers, right? So I would say bad donkey Jedi use blue, and then the cool Jedi they use green. Man, all the cool Jedi they use green.
It's the way. This is the way, as someone would say.
Yes.
If you had to pick, we've already kind of dabbled in this too, but if you had to pick your top 3 favorite characters of all time, who would they be? They don't have to be in any order, just top 3.
Obi-Wan, Luke. I don't want to say another Jedi. I feel like I'm getting predictable here. All right. Qui-Gon, Luke, and then I would have to say Darth Vader. So I got 2 Jedi and a Sith. All right.
Very cool choices. Very cool. If you had to bring one force power into real life, what force power would you want to have?
That's a good question. I'd probably just have to go with classic force push.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Just whoosh, whoosh. I always say for like just like having like the ability to like levitate things, because I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting on the couch and the remote's like all the way across the room, and I'm just like, come on.
And that one, and then a close second would be Jedi reflexes.
Yeah, that would be cool too.
I would love that, because I play airsoft roughly once a month.
Oh, sick!
And the last time I went, I actually cosplayed as a Jedi.
Yo,
as my robes, and I actually ran out with my Saber Forge lightsaber. No gun, no nothing. And I killed 5 guys, but I was just as I was playing, I was thinking, it was like, man, how cool would it be if I could actually deflect these little tiny airsoft BBs?
That'd be sick.
If I had Jedi like reflexes, I feel like I could do that.
Oh, 100%, or at least like be able to like dodge them yourself, you know?
Right.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So this one's a 2-part question. What is your favorite planet, and what planet would you want to live on if you were in the Star Wars universe?
Favorite planet. Favorite planet might have to be Kashyyyk.
Ooh, nice.
Because it's just got every environment that I enjoy. I love the woods. I love climbing trees. And I also enjoy the beaches. And as far as which planet I'd want to live on, it might actually be Kashyyyk.
Ooh, nice. Okay. Okay.
Either Kashyyyk or Gleanzelm.
Very cool. Very cool. I haven't gotten either of those answers yet, so that's cool. I always like it when I get new answers. I'm like, yes. So we're gonna do a little bit of a Star Wars family tree. You have to pick who would be your Star Wars mom, who would be your Star Wars dad, who would be your Star Wars best friend, and then who would be your Star Wars nemesis. And we'll start with the mom and dad.
All right, so Star Wars dad, gotta go with Qui-Gon. He just seems like he'd be the best dad.
Heck yeah.
And then Star Wars mommy would be Padme.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Come on. No, I would have to, either Padme or Ahsoka. I think Ahsoka would be a great mom.
Yeah, they both have good mom energy for sure.
Yeah. Star Wars bestie, Kit Fisto.
Nice. That's what's up.
Along so well. And nemesis, Ponkrell.
Interesting. I feel like he'd be scary to go up against with all his arms, man. His those double blade. I was like, there's too many things to look at.
It's like General Grievous on steroids.
Right, it's General Grievous with the Force, literally, essentially.
Massive, so bulky.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, well, I think that's going to end the Minoc Minutes. I have 2 more questions for you, and then we'll get all your social medias and stuff like that out to the fans. What project are you looking forward to the most that's going to come out that's been announced? Like, what are you looking forward to the most?
Man, right now I'm thriving with Kenobi.
How are you liking it, by the way? How are you liking Kenobi?
It's the best Star Wars we've got since Revenge of the Sith. I think all the Luke moments that we got between Boba and Mando have also been incredible. Great. Definitely up there. But until we get a whole story surrounding Luke and rebuilding the Jedi, I hope so. I think right now the Kenobi show is the best thing that Disney Star Wars has ever done.
Nice.
Since Revenge of the Sith. But I am probably gonna be in a much more happy place than I am now when Ahsoka comes out.
Oh, for sure.
Because I think the excitement level is the same, but with Ahsoka, the possibilities are endless. Where we already kind of know where the story is going to end up with Kenobi. We don't really have that with Ahsoka. It could go anywhere. We have no idea. So that really excites me.
Oh yeah, reading the because I'm reading the Era of the Empire. Definitely has made me a lot more hype for Ahsoka because I feel like they can take a whole bunch of elements from that.
Rebel stuff in Era of the Empire. So much.
And I think it'll be cool. They're already bringing back Ezra and Sabine. I think they said Hera was going to be in it too. And I'm just like, dude, this is going to be awesome. Just basically live action Rebels characters. And
old Rex on screen, man. Oh, take my money.
I was like freaking out when you just have the random 501st trooper, like veteran asking for money in Kenobi. And I was like, also too, not to mention, like, we've never seen like live action clones before. They've always been CGI'd. So I was like, on cloud 9. I was flipping out.
I would love to see their process of how they made those, because every cosplay I've seen, I mean, there's some great clone trooper cosplayers out there, but they're never screen accurate. Where these, they were almost, I mean, it was live action, but it was so perfectly accurate to Revenge of the Sith.
Oh yeah,
and it's almost flawless. Like if you were to splice that flashback to the Operation Nightfall scene, you could hardly tell the difference.
I know. Well, that's why I was like, I was flipping out during this. Like I was trying to stay within like the moment and within the scene, but at the same time I was like freaking out because I was like, wait, are these CGI? Are these like real? I was like, they look real. I was like, the way the lighting's bouncing off of it and stuff like that. Like it looks like they're real. I was like going all Sherlock Holmes with it, trying to, decipher if they were real or CGI. But I think that's That's cool, man. Right on. And if Disney called you up and was like, hey, we need an idea for a new Star Wars project. It can be a movie, it can be a video game, book, whatever. What idea would you pitch them?
It would be a 24 episode. Each episode is an hour long. It would be a 24 episode following Kit Fisto's life. No, I'm kidding.
I'd watch it. I'd be like, sign me up.
I would watch the crap out of that show. No, I think, honestly, I would want to. I would want to tell a story about Luke, either Luke rebuilding the Jedi Order, or a trilogy of movies leading up to, like, right up until the Phantom Menace, and the politics surrounding Plagueis, Sidious, Maul, Dooku, Sifo-Dyas, the Clone Army, like really diving into those things.
Dude, that would be awesome. I read Plagueis a few months ago, and I was like, why isn't this a movie? So I completely agree with you. You could have so much within that, and I think that would be a very cool. Hopefully they do it, Yeah. So it'd be cool. Well, all right, man. Thank you so much for coming on and talking Star Wars with me. We're at about an hour and 6 minutes. So that's a pretty good podcast, man.
Yeah, it's been great, man. I had a good time.
Why don't you list all your social medias and all that stuff so where the good people of the podcast could find you?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you go on almost any platform, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and you can find me at Golden Guy Pictures for all of them.
Right. And I'll have all those links down below for you guys too, so you can just go and click on them for you. Again, thank you for coming on. If you guys have made it this far in this video, thank you guys for watching, and may the Force be with you.